Hello, everyone. Welcome to our last month in the 3-month challenge to change. I can't believe it. We're here. It's our last month. Oh, there's Henry. I feel like some of you don't believe me that I have a big, giant, fluffy dog because I feel like sometimes I'm like, there he is. And then I realize later he's actually not in the camera shot. So anyway, maybe I do have a big, fluffy dog. Maybe I don't. Okay. Back to the challenge. It's our last month. Don't worry. I already have something coming up. So stay tuned. I will make an announcement about it, and I'm really excited. But let's stay in the moment, and we have a new intention for our last month. And our new intention is, I know you can't read it from there, expectations. Woo! Yes, I have practiced this before. If I'm honest, I've practiced it a few times, and it always brings up such lovely things for me. I have a lot of hidden, but not really hidden expectations. And I can feel frustrated very often. And I've learned now from practicing this intention that it's kind of my checkpoint to go, okay, I'm having some expectations instead of allowing reality to be what it is. And then finding acceptance, which was week 1. If you are tuning in for the first time, I encourage you to go back to our first month's intention, which was acceptance. So it's a little bit of a progression, and if you've practiced with me that first month acceptance, it will give you a little bit of a foundation for this month. So every month we read our expectation card, but we have just one little part for the week that we focus on. So let's get on into that. Reading our card, here is our entire focus for this month. Deep breath. Expectations. Having inflexible expectations is premeditated resentment. We all have expectations of the way we want our lives to be, other people to be, situations to be. The list goes on and on. There is no supposed to be or should be in life. Life just is. And holding too tightly to our expectations makes us rigid and disappointed. Learn to hold your expectations loosely. Sometimes they will be met, and sometimes they won't. Practice being okay in both situations and leave resentment behind. Okay, I took a deep breath for all of us. So that's a lot. Honestly, that is our longest intention thus far. And I just think there's a lot to expectations. We all have them, and oftentimes we don't realize we have them. We have them for ourselves, how we think we should be or we ought to be, how we are trying to compare ourselves to everyone else, how our life is, what life outside of us looks like, how people are. Like it gets messy. And hopefully as we move through this month, we're gonna see our hidden agendas, our expectations, and then we'll also see what comes out of that. Something that the intention card points out is resentment. And resentment does not feel good in our bodies, and it really creates a lot of derision in our relationships. So remember, the whole entire point of this process and practice, the 3-month challenge to change, is changing from the inside out. Like we can't change other people so that they meet our expectations. We can ask, but we can't control them. A lot of times we can't control life and outside circumstances to meet our expectations. yet we can change how we respond to life and outer circumstances. So just so you know, this is not easy work. It is way easier to blame, to be resentful, to be mad, to try to control everything. But most of the work that I do with myself and with other people is in the body. And if you've never read this book, it's an intense book, but it's a really powerful book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And it really is just what the title says. Like, resentment will catch up with you. It creates tension. It creates just bitterness. And the body keeps track of that through illness, through tight muscles, through lots of different physical manifestations. So the word yoga, even if you don't do yoga, I love this. The root word, the meaning is the yoking and or the union of the mind and the body and the spirit. And these types of practices where we're being mindful of our thoughts and our habits and our behaviors is hopefully drawing us back to this idea of holistic well-being, that we're not just taking care of our physical bodies, we're not just taking care of our minds, we're not just having a spiritual life, but all of those parts and pieces are being equally tended to and cared for so we can be whole and happy and healthy. So with each, I know that was a lot, with each week, since this is week 1, we will have just for this week a focus from this big giant intention. And so I'm going to read just this week's focus, and I will also put that in the notes of this video. So this is all we're going to focus on. Having inflexible expectations is premeditated resentment. We all have expectations of the way we want our lives to be, other people to be, situations to be. The list goes on and on. And so with that, I will read to you our weekly challenge. So we have our weekly intention, and with that comes our weekly challenge. And hopefully the challenge will make sense from what we just read as our focus. So this week, here is your challenge. Here's what I want you to do, because we can be mindful, but the intentional part leads us to action, and action leads to change. So here's how I would like for you to take action this week. Pay attention to your expectations this week. One way to notice them is when they're not being met. Anger is usually a good clue. Write down 3 expectations you had this week that you noticed by being mindful. Because a lot of times these expectations are kind of unconscious. Like, we don't even realize we're putting such heavy expectations on ourselves and others in the world and all of those things. And so anger is a good clue. When we're met with frustration, oftentimes it's pointing to one of our expectations that's not being met. So there's our challenge. This is good work. Anger is a really healthy emotion when it is used to reveal passion or to move us to action. It is not a good emotion when it's not processed and it gets stuck in our bodies. It doesn't feel good. So I hope that this brings you some freedom, again, in the mind, in the body, and the spirit. So a few announcements. I always have to write it down, you know, by now, if you've been doing this with me. I would love to do a morning meditation with you on Tuesday at 8 a.m. on Instagram Live. And I'm Mindful Living with Kate. I'll put that in the notes to the video. I also want to remind you that since this is a brand new month, if you haven't signed up for the emails, please do that. You get a little bit more of a mindful tip and guide for each day of the week, and you get little reminders. So I'd love to just have a bit more connection with you. It's free. And then the deeper dive, which if you've been following me, you know is the paid for. It's $30. You get even more from me, mindfulness coaching. If you have questions, you want to reach out to me, you can. We do an online group so we can kind of process through, and journaling prompts, more reflections, and a deeper dive. So I also want to remind you that so far it's been just me, and it's all good because when I go to this hashtag, it makes me laugh. It's just like the Kate show. So I created a hashtag 3-month challenge to change so that you can kind of follow along. And every week, if you get the emails, I invite you to take a picture of yourself either after yoga or after meditation, just so that we can, really show one another that we're making a commitment. So right now, you can see my commitment, but I want to offer you to kind of share your journey on there if you would like to. And thank you. I always thank you, but I'm thanking you for doing this process. I really believe that when we change from the inside, it creates such a powerful change on the outside. Thank you for waking up. Thank you for wanting to live more fully. And I really do believe love will guide us all the way. I can't wait to see you and hear about what's coming up for you in this entire month. And many blessings.